Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video on the channel today. In today's video, as you probably noticing, rocking the King Henry jersey. This shit just came in. And I'll tell you what, after this video, that jersey wall is going to be getting a major upgrade. But you guys are not here to talk about my awesome jersey collection. You guys clicked on this video to hear my predictions about everything that is going to happen in the 2023 NFL season. I'm going to be going through record predictions, playoff predictions, Super Bowl predictions. I'm going to talk about who I think wins every major award. And because the season is just 2 days away, I wanted one video to get out all of my final takes. And I'm going to look back on this video at the end of this year and next year and see where I was right and where I was being a complete dumbass. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the non-playoff teams of each conference. I'm going to talk about them kind of briefly for each team. Then we'll go ahead and get into the playoff teams that I think are going to make it for each conference. So I'm going to put the rankings right here for you guys. Starting off with the AFC, I have the Raiders being the worst team. I think when you have Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback, who is as inconsistent as he is injury prone, you combine that with Josh McDaniels, one of the worst coaches in the NFL, and a terrible defense. I think that gives you a recipe for a 2-15 season. The Texans here at 3-14, they are a very young team. They're a very inexperienced team, and they're a very raw team. I do not expect a lot of good things in 2023. However, I do think that they're building something good for the future. The New England Patriots, honestly, I went through every game, and there's not a lot of games that I would pick the New England Patriots to win. And this is probably a little bit disrespectful, I will say. This is probably something when I go back, I'm like, oh, why did you pick the Patriots to go 5-12? Are you fucking stupid? I am. But I think that they're just not a very good team. They don't impress me very much. Hate to do it to them because I'm wearing the jersey right now, but the Titans going 6-11. They don't really have a question. They don't really have a guy at quarterback right now. Derrick Henry, how long can he still be dominant? The receivers are sus. The offensive line is sus. And I think minus a few guys, the defense is sus as well. For the Indianapolis Colts, also have them going 6-11. Anthony Richardson does not have a lot of help this year. He does not, especially if Jonathan Taylor, who is at least going to miss the first 4 games. The defense is eh. The pass catchers, as of right now, are eh. The offensive line was bad last year. I don't see a lot of hope for this team. They're probably going to go 6-11. The Browns at 8-9. I promise you, I am not falling for the every single offseason hype for the Cleveland Browns. I'm done. I'm not doing it. Deshaun Watson is not going to be who he was in Houston. I do not think that they're a playoff team, especially in that loaded AFC. And I really don't like their coach. I really don't like Kevin Stefanski. I have them going 8-9. Now going into the teams that I think are going to be legit in the playoff hunt, but will just miss out. And there's going to be some good teams because this AFC conference is loaded. The Denver Broncos, 9-8. They will be much improved under Sean Payton. Russell Wilson will be much better than he was last year. However, it's not good enough to compete in a loaded AFC, especially in their division, the AFC West, which is one of the best divisions in the NFL. The Steelers going 10-7. Last year they went 9-8. I think with the improvements of Kenny Pickett, the improvement of George Pickens, and the improvement of hopefully a fully healthy TJ Watt definitely makes them a better team. I think the rest of the conference got better though as well. I have them winning 10 games, and I have them being the 9 seed. And then this is where I think it starts to get really controversial. I have the Baltimore Ravens at 11-6, just barely missing the playoffs. And you'll see why when I go into the AFC playoff preview. But, man, this is going to be a really, really good Ravens team. And I hate to say it, but I think they just miss out of the playoffs. Now going down to the NFC, the team that I think will be legitimately the worst in the NFL is going to be the Arizona Cardinals. Who knows when they get Kyler Murray? And even when they do, they have giant holes all over the roster. I'm going to call the Arizona Cardinals the Arizona Swiss cheese because of how many holes they have all over their team. They're not set up for success this year. They are not going to be very good this year, I don't think. But the consolation prize will be owning the first overall pick. Will they flip and go with Caleb Williams as their quarterback for the future? Or will they pull the Bears and get a fucking haul for the first overall pick? Who knows? The next worst team, I think, is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's going to be a big drop-off after Tom Brady. Baker Mayfield is probably not that guy. I think the defense is getting older and a little bit worse, and I don't know if they're going to be able to run the football very well, especially with Ryan Jensen now going to be missing the whole year. The Rams at 3-14. The Cooper Kupp injury news just kind of reinforces what I've been saying about the Rams being very old, very injury-prone, and very top-heavy. That is not a good combination, especially, with your quarterback. Matthew Stafford, I think he's dealt with some injury stuff. Aaron Donald is a great player, yes, but if you look at that defense, they have a bunch of they have 10 They have Aaron Donald and 10 scrubs. Kind of like how in the Jackson 5 it was Michael Jackson and 4 scrubs. That's how it is with Aaron Donald and his defense. I do not see a pathway for playoffs for them. At 5-12, I have the Green Bay Packers. This is mostly a kind of a question mark. I have them being not very good, but their season really hinges on Jordan Love, and I don't have a good eval on him yet. So we'll have to see. I'll come back to that. The Commanders, 6-11. I think they look a little bit better, but I still don't like their head coach. I'm not a big fan of their back seven on defense. And as much as I like Sam Howell, I don't know if they'll have a great running game. I don't know if the offensive line is going to be good. And I don't know if Sam Howell will be great in year one of Eric Bieniemy's offense. Carolina coming in at 7-10. This is maybe a bit generous for the Panthers. I don't think they're going to be very good this year. I think Bryce Young will struggle, as rookie quarterbacks should. And you look at the roster, they are definitely in rebuilding mode. I mean, there's a reason they own the first overall pick. I understand it wasn't theirs, but there was a reason they felt they needed to trade for it. This roster's not good. They have some young pieces, but they're not ready to compete just yet. I'll give them 7-10. Another team that's 7-10 is the G-Men. I think the Giants take a step down from what they were last year. I hope that Saquon Barkley can play another full healthy season, but unfortunately that has not been a guarantee throughout his career. Daniel Jones is, I think, one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the NFL, and I think he's going to bag down this offense a little bit once teams kind of get used to him and everything like that. The Saints coming in at 8-9. There's kind of a mediocre team across the board. I really don't like their head coach, Dennis Allen. Their defense is good, but it's getting older. They do now have some stability at quarterback with Derek Carr, who is by no means a superstar, but he is at least a solid quarterback. And then we have the Minnesota Vikings at 8-9. I think they take a step back from 13-4. I don't think they get as lucky this year, and I think their terrible defense finally catches up to them. Now, getting into the AFC playoff picture, this one is a little bit spicy, I understand. So I'm going to go bottom up. The Jets at number 7, they are going to be one of those teams that is competing for a wild card spot. There's going to be highly coveted wild card spots in the AFC. I think the Jets get the 7 seed. Here's why. Their defense last year was really, really good. They were 7-10 with 3 of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. Now they're adding Aaron Rodgers. I think that's worth at least 2, 3, maybe even 4 wins. That gets them to 11-6, right? You look at the Jets, they are in a tough division. They have a tough schedule. Like, they got to play the Chiefs. They got to play a lot of these other teams. It's a tough schedule, but I think Aaron Rodgers makes them better. I don't know if they're like a dominant force in the AFC because I think it takes them a little bit to get going. But the Jets are going to win 11 games. They're going to have the number 7 seed. They are going to be right behind the Dolphins, who win 12 games, are in the 6th seed. If Tua could stay healthy, this Dolphins offense has proven that it is one of the best in the NFL. Vic Fangio is going to help that defense a lot. I think they're going to win 12 games, and I think they're going to be the number 6 seed in the AFC. It is going to be a tight AFC East race down to the last few weeks, but I think the Dolphins managed to get the 6th seed, Jets the 7, and as you can see, spoiler, the Bills at 4. Going into the Chargers at number 5, the Chargers are one of the most talented teams in the NFL. Unfortunately, though, the injury bug has bit them in the ass every single season. I think they get a little bit luckier with the health this year. I think Derwin James is able to play a full year. Joey Bosa is able to play mostly a full year. Rashawn Slater, etc. I do like Quentin Johnson. I really like the addition of Kellen Moore as their offensive coordinator. 12-5 for a Justin Herbert-led team seems pretty valid. And then going into the division winners, I think Buffalo is probably the only one that people could have a problem with. But again, they've owned that division for a few years now. Unless they really get overtaken, unless it's their division to lose. You know, it has been for years now. And I have not seen anything that is convincingly going to make me not pick the Bills to win the AFC East. The Chiefs winning the West, I don't think anybody disagrees with that. Now, the Bengals and Chiefs, that came down to a tiebreaker in the regular season. I did have the Bengals winning that. So that is why the Bengals are the 2 seed. I think a lot of people would have the Bengals as a top 2, 3 seed in the AFC, winning the AFC North at 13-4. And then the one that's really going to get people shocked is the Jacksonville Jaguars going 14-3. I really believe in this Jaguars team. I think they have the perfect combination of depth, talent, good coaching, bad schedule. They do have a bad schedule, playing a bad division, to where they can win 14 games this year and be the number 1 seed in the AFC. For the NFC, getting into my NFC playoff picture, I have the Bears at the number 7 seed going 8-9. Now, there's a few 8-9 teams competing for a wild card spot, and somehow, some way, they managed to win the tiebreaker. Justin Fields is going to take a step up in 2023. I guarantee that, especially with new wide receiver DJ Moore. And that defense, couldn't really be much worse than it was last year. I do like Dexter, the new DT they got in the draft, and I think Yannick Ngakoue at the very least can rush the passer. I like their linebacking core now; it's much better than it was last year. And the Bears will be better. They will not be a good team by any means, but I think they will be better. And in a definitely weak NFC, there is a chance to win the number 7 seed with a sub 500 record, which I think the Bears could do. Jumping up 1 seed is going to be the 3-win increase of the Seattle Seahawks going 11-6. You guys know I'm a Seahawks fan. I love the Seahawks. They went 9-8 last year, and I think they got much better in the offseason. A lot of people project the Seahawks to be on an upward trajectory, myself included. I think 11-6 is good, and to become the number 6 seed in the NFC. At number 5 seed, I think the best wildcard team in the NFL is going to be the Dallas Cowboys at 12-5. If they weren't in the division with the Philadelphia Eagles, they would be like the 2 or the 3 seed in the NFL. But unfortunately, they do have to compete with Philadelphia. Dallas, what can you say? They're really good across the board. On paper, this might be the best team in the NFL. I think what holds them back is the turnovers of Dak Prescott and the cluelessness of Mike McCarthy. As I mentioned with the Chargers, I think losing Kellen Moore hurts. And I do think that we're in for a big year from CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard and Micah Parsons. Going in at number 4, the winner of the NFC South, I think is going to be the Atlanta Falcons. I've been kind of contemplating who I think is going to win the South because, to be honest, they're all kind of mid. But when I really looked at the roster, the one special trait that the Atlanta Falcons have is probably going to be their ability to run the football. Bijan Robinson is going to absolutely kill it in his rookie year. Last year, Tyler Algier ran for over 1,000 yards. Last year, Cordell Patterson ran for a bunch of touchdowns. Arthur Smith is a guy, he wants to run the ball. I mean, he was in Tennessee with Derrick Henry, and he was able to run the football. I think the Falcons are going to win games just solely based on their rushing capabilities. And I do like some of their skill guys on offense. I think that defense is a little bit better. I think 9-8 wins them the NFC South. At number 3, the Detroit Lions. I'm a little bit lower on the Lions than a lot of people, but I do think that their schedule and their improvements make them an 11-win team this year. I think they win the number 3 seed in the NFC. And then the top 2 seeds in the NFC, I don't think a lot of people are going to disagree with me there. The 49ers at 13-4. People want to say, oh, Brock Purdy's not that good. He doesn't have to be. Oh, Nick Bosa, oh, he's in his contract situation. They'll figure it out. I'm not worried about the 49ers. They're going to continue their dominant ways, and they will be on a trajectory for the Super Bowl at the end of the regular season. And then speaking of Super Bowl, the Eagles, they're going to go 14-3. They're probably going to be, again, the best team in the NFL. I don't really see a team that can match the Eagles, both on paper and on the field. Now, before I get into my playoff predictions, I would like to give my award predictions. For the MVP award, I am going to go with Jalen Hurts. He would have won it last year had he not got injured, probably. And I think if the Eagles again go 14-3 and he puts up similar stats, he's going to be the league MVP. For my Defensive Player of the Year, I'm going to go with TJ Watt. TJ Watt has already won Defensive Player of the Year, actually, and he is legitimately one of the best defensive players in the NFL, and in its, recent history. 22.5 sacks is his career best, and that just so happens to be the NFL record. If he plays a healthy season, he could approach those numbers once again. That Steelers defense is going to be insane. And with Alex Highsmith and now Nick Herbig being like dominant edge rushers as well, it's going to give him better opportunities, I think. The Offensive Player of the Year is going to be Tyreek Hill. I think that he has a chance to possibly get 2,000 yards this year, assuming Tua stays healthy, assuming Tyreek Hill is similarly productive as he was last year. Tyreek Hill could get 2,000 yards. If he does, it's a lock that he wins Offensive Player of the Year. For the Offensive Rookie of the Year, I think it's obvious. I'm going to go with Bijan Robinson. Like I said, the Falcons are going to make the playoffs. They're going to win the South. And Bijan Robinson is going to be a big reason why. He's going to probably run for 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns. He's going to be a receiving threat as well. I think he's probably the odds-on favorite to win, and I think he's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. For Defensive Rookie of the Year, I understand he's going to be on a bad team, and honestly, I don't think it matters so much for rookies. I think Will Anderson is going to have a great season for the Houston Texans. I think he's going to have 10-plus sacks. He is going to be a dominant force for a team that isn't very good, but is building for the future, and I think he is going to show the game that he is one of the best edge rushers right out of the gate. For Coach of the Year, just the politics of how this award goes. I don't necessarily think this is the best coach in the NFL, but based on the way that the award has been awarded the past few seasons, I think it's going to be Dan Campbell. You're going to take a team in the Lions that has been getting talked a lot about during the offseason, a team that hasn't made the playoffs in a long time, and especially if they win a playoff game. I know it's a regular season award, but just stay with me for a second. especially if they're in the playoffs and they're like have a home playoff game. Dan Campbell, I think, is definitely going to win that Coach of the Year award. He's also very popular, so people know a lot about him. All right, so getting into my playoff predictions, I have the number 5 Los Angeles Chargers visiting the number 4 seed Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, and I have the Chargers winning. I know. I think this is the first playoff win of Justin Herbert's career, and I think the Bills continue their downward trajectory of playoff disappointments. I mean, we forget, the Chargers had a 27 or whatever it was point advantage over the Jaguars last year before they choked it. So they didn't necessarily not get off the bus and not come to play. Chargers over the Bills. Next, we have the number 6 seed Dolphins going up against the buzzsaw number 3 seed Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. Tua, I love you. You're my boy. You are not beating Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. There is very few people on planet Earth that could do that. Tom Brady is one of them, and my Joe Burrow is the other. When the number 7 seed Jets visit the number 2 seed Bengals in the jungle, the Jets, I think their season ends in the wild card round. I think they are too much to handle. The Bengals are too much to handle for the Jets, and I don't think that they get past them. On the NFC side of things, the 5 seed Cowboys visit the 4 seed Falcons in Atlanta. The Cowboys are a just much better team all the way across the board. I think they handle the Falcons pretty well. Next, we have my Seattle Seahawks going against the Detroit Lions. And I'll take the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are much more experienced in the playoffs. Pete Carroll, especially over Dan Campbell. And I think that the Seahawks have the ability to put up points, which Detroit does as well. And if the Seahawks can go blow to both the Lions, I think they can close it out. And then the Bears versus the 49ers, David versus Goliath. Unfortunately, this time he does not have a slingshot. I think the Niners kicked the Bears in the ass, and there is no monsoon to help the Bears win the 49ers this time. Next, in the divisional round, I got some really, really good matchups. We got the Chiefs visiting the Bengals in the jungle, and I think the Bengals walk out on top. It looks like Mahomes and Burrow both know how to beat each other, and I think this is Joe Burrow's turn to now beat Mahomes once again. Chargers versus the 1 seed Jaguars. I think the Jaguars are a much better team this year. They beat the Chargers in the playoffs last year. I think they beat them again this year. And then for the NFC, the 49ers and the Cowboys for the 3rd year in a row. What's different? Oh, yeah, the Cowboys are able to beat the 49ers this year and go to the NFC Championship game. And then, unfortunately, my 6 seed Seattle Seahawks do not stand much of a chance against the buzzsaw. That is the 1 seed Philadelphia Eagles. Next, for the AFC Championship game, the Bengals beat the Jaguars in Duval. Trevor Lawrence's magic season ends just a little bit short of a Super Bowl. And then I think the Cowboys and Eagles face off in a legendary NFC Championship game, which results in the Eagles going to the Super Bowl for the 2nd straight year. Now, in the Super Bowl, before I talk about the game itself, I do want to mention my prediction for the Super Bowl halftime show is, I think Drake. I think Drake is going to do it. If not Drake, my vote personally would be for Selena Gomez. I know, whatever, you guys, but I would love Selena Gomez, but I do think Drake is going to headline it. But talking about the Super Bowl itself, the Eagles versus the Bengals, this was almost the Super Bowl matchup last year. I think this is actually a pretty good matchup for the Bengals because the Bengals have wide receivers on wide receivers. The Eagles, I think their weakness right now is probably corner. Their corners are getting a little old, and I doubt they'll be able to keep up with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd. And we all know how good Joe Burrow is in the playoffs. But I think the Eagles just as a whole are just a little bit better than the Bengals. Jalen Hurts was really, minus 1 play, was really, really good in the Super Bowl last year. They have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. They have a great group of receivers. They have a great tight end. They have a really, really good defensive line. And I think that the D-line is going to make Joe Burrow's life hell. I have the Eagles winning. I have the Eagles winning like 31-24 in the Super Bowl against the Bengals. So that is my predictions for this NFL season. I went through the whole season, talked about the awards, talked about everything like that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Once again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace out.